Hello, can you see the desktop and do you hear me? Does everything seem okay?
Yeah, everything seems fine.
Yep.
Okay, great,
Good.
thank you. And still a lot of people to show up. Okay, all right. Okay, so like, I want to, notice that there's the link to the last lecture if you wanted to go back and review anything. So like I said the other day, after class, this link will turn into the link for a recording of today's lecture. See, here's a new reading assignment for next week. Today, we're going to go over the reading assignment that was for this week. Okay, so we'll talk about what's in that reading assignment today. What we did last week, the other day was basically go over mostly what we did was go over installing Dr. Java. And I think what we'll do today is we'll go over it real quickly again. Just real quickly, we'll go over the details of that again, and then we'll start talking about what's in the textbook. Actually, first, is anybody got any questions from what they've done so far? Has anything come up? Any problem? Anybody have a question about? If you have a question, just go ahead and ask.
If you have Linux as your operating system, can you use something like ICE or OpenJDK to run Java instead of Dr. Java?
OpenJDK is the same thing as Corretto, so you would still install Corretto. Dr. Java works on Linux fine.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. You can use anything you want, but OpenJDK is not a replacement for Dr. Java. OpenJDK is a replacement for Corretto, and it really doesn't matter which one you use of those either.
Okay.
You should use Java 8 though.
Okay, yeah, I already have that. Is Dr. Java an IDE, I'm assuming?
Yes, a small,
Okay.
a very small one. It's an educational level IDE. Okay,
Nice.
so it's meant for a course like this. Okay, and that's what we'll be using in class. Okay, so you give it a try.
Okay.
It will work on Linux and Mac and Windows.
Cool.
Other questions about anything that's come up since we've met on Tuesday? Okay. Well, let's go ahead and let's go back through these steps real quick. If you haven't done them yet, you can maybe follow along. The first thing you need to do is you need to do this thing called the name we give it is called the JDK, Java Development Kit. It's the thing that is actually the real Java programming system. Okay, so first you have to download that and install it on your computer, and you either have a Windows version or a Mac version. And if you just click on that, that'll download. Like right here, it's downloading to my desktop. You would just run this installer. Okay, just always say yes to whatever they want. When you get to this last step, this little shield means it's going to ask you for a password. If I click the next step, it's going to complete the install, but the shield means it's going to ask me for a password, so you need to know the password for your system. I'm going to go ahead and cancel this because I don't want to reinstall it because I've already got it on my computer. Okay, then then you can delete the installer when you're done with that step. The next step after that, now we're going to download a different piece of this, something called Dr. Java. Dr. Java is a program that lets you write Java programs. This is what lets you run Java programs. Okay, this is what lets you write Java programs. And there's many different systems out there for writing Java programs. Dr. Java is a simple one that was written for students to use in an introductory class. So just click on this, download this. Okay, that's not okay. Finish downloading, then unzip it. Okay, now Dr. Java is this program right here, and it won't work unless you've done step one. If you didn't do step one, this program won't run. okay, because it needs Java on your computer before it will run. Okay, and what I think the best way that you can use Dr. Java is to cut this out of and put it, move it to your C directory, your hard drive. Okay, like I've already done that here, so it's already been moved there, so I'm not going to move it, but move it from your desktop, say, to your C drive. Okay, now you don't have to do that. You probably could use it from your desktop, but it's nice maybe to keep your desktop more organized. Okay, so you could possibly, oh, delete the zip file, because if you double click the zip file, remember I pointed this out the other day, that if you, here's the zip file, here's its unzipped folder. Okay, remember, this is something we talked about the other day real quick, but you have to be really careful about this. If you double click the zip file and you double click the folder, they look a lot alike. And it can be very hard to tell them apart. But they are very different. And you should never work from inside of a zip file. It just causes all kinds of confusion. For some reason, Microsoft thought it was a good idea to make the inside of a zip file look like the inside of a folder. So you open the zip file and you open the folder and they look alike. Notice that there's a little, there's only one, the only difference is you got this little pink thing up here. Okay, otherwise, everything kind of looks the same. Like if you double click on this and you double click on this, they still look the same. You can go back, but they're not the same. I think it's a mistake of Microsoft to have made the inside of a zip file look like the inside of a folder. Because every year I have students getting very confused, and they're trying to work inside of a zip file, and they get very confused, and things don't work right, and I get email messages, and it is confusing. I think personally, I think it's a mistake. You know, they should have made the inside of a zip file look real different than the inside of a folder. But the only difference is this little pink bar up here. So I usually tell people just delete the zip file right away after you've unzipped it. The same is true with the homework assignment. That's where you have to be even more careful. Don't work on the inside of the zip file of the homework assignment. Okay. Now, you know, and then that's another reason. You know, well, unzip the zip file, delete it, then move this thing to your C drive. Okay. Now I'm just going to delete this one because I don't need. I already have it to on my C drive. Okay. Next, another thing you could do is if you've moved the Dr. Java folder to your C drive, and you want to work from your desktop, one thing you can do is you go here and you can create, you copy and, I'm sorry, didn't work right. If you go here and you say copy, oh, I'm sorry, that didn't do what I wanted to do. Go here and say copy, then you can paste a shortcut to your desktop. A shortcut's kind of a useful thing, and if you've played around a lot with your computer, you may have seen these before. Shortcuts are real useful. Instead of me making a copy of this file over here, I actually created something that points to this file. This is a file that, see, if you click on this file here, you see that it's 18 megabytes in size. It's a pretty big file. It holds the code for the Dr. Java program. This thing's a tiny little file. This thing is only, if you measure it in size, it's only 736 units. This thing is 18 million units. The unit is called a byte. Okay, so we measure things in their size on a computer in bytes. This thing's 18 million bytes. This is 700 bytes. This is a little thing that points at that thing. And Windows calls it a shortcut. And if I double click on the shortcut, it runs that program. And on Mac, they're called aliases because it's like another name for this thing here. See, that ran Dr. Java. Okay, so a real convenient way to use your computer is to put programs on your C drive, but then maybe have a shortcut to them. If you see on my desktop, there's a whole bunch of shortcuts. Some of them put there by me, some of them put there by Windows. Okay, like Google put a shortcut to itself. When I installed Google, when I installed Firefox, Firefox put a shortcut to itself on my desktop. Okay, So that's one thing you could do is you can put a shortcut to Dr. Java on your desktop. Now, if you run Dr. Java, it's a little bit slow to start up. It looks like this, okay? And then I thought I made it look a little bit better. I made some modifications to Dr. Java that make it look a little bit nicer. The modifications are in this folder here, and Dr. Java needs to be with that folder. These two files run the modified version of Dr. Java, and they give it a light and a dark mode, okay? So for example, if you double click on that, it runs Dr. Java. It actually runs this program, but with some slight changes made to it, and I think it ends up looking nicer. Okay, so there's Dr. Java in a dark mode. And then I also created a Dr. Java in a light mode. I actually had students last semester who who complained about how it wasn't very pleasant to work in Dr. Java. And they're right, it is okay, there's the light mode. The Dr. Java by itself doesn't look very good. So this helped a little bit, make things look a little bit nicer. Now you can create shortcuts to these guys just like you can create a shortcut to Dr. Java. Like if you want to use the dark mode, you go here and right click. So I'm right clicking on that and I could do copy. Then I go over to here and I right click again and say paste shortcut. Now I got a shortcut on my desktop that'll run the Dr. Java dark mode. Okay, see, there's the Dr. Java dark mode. Okay, then once you have the shortcut, if you want, you can just close that and kind of forget about it. Then Dr. Java is on your computer, and you have a shortcut to it that you can use to start it. Okay. Now I've already done that to my desktop. See, I already had these shortcuts over here. See, I put shortcuts to Dr. Java on my desktop, so I'll delete these. Okay, so see, I have a shortcut to the light mode, a shortcut to the dark mode, and I also keep a shortcut to the original Dr. Java because sometimes I want to compare them. So I have 3 shortcuts to Dr. Java. You can use whichever one you think you prefer. Okay, and this ends up being a fairly convenient way to use the program. Shortcuts are pretty much the way people use Windows a lot. Like I said a minute ago, Google put a shortcut to itself when I installed Google Chrome. Firefox put a shortcut to itself when I installed Firefox. Lots of programs will put and then your start menu actually is nothing but a collection of shortcuts. Programs put themselves in the start menu. What's actually in the start menu are shortcuts. Okay, so if I look for my copy of Word here, see I have Word on this computer. Well, that's actually a shortcut to Word. If I click on it, it starts Word, but it's not the Word program that's in the start menu. It's one of these shortcuts. Okay, so shortcuts are used all over the place in Windows because then you can have you could put a program in several different places without making copies of it. You just have these shortcuts pointing to the program. Okay. All right. So those are real quickly, that was the steps to get Dr. Java working on your computer. Okay. And then your first homework assignment, let's go back over it real quick. Okay. Then your first homework assignment is over here. It's due on Tuesday. Okay, due this coming Tuesday. It has a zip file also. Okay, every one of the homework assignments will come with a zip file that'll have stuff in the zip file you need to do the homework assignment. Okay, so unzip the zip file. After you unzip the zip file, it's probably a good idea to just delete the zip file so you don't make a mistake of working inside the zip file, because it really, again, if you compare the inside of a zip file to the inside of a folder, they just look exactly alike. Well, actually, I noticed another little tiny difference. See, this one has the name of where this has the name of the folder. Right here is the name of the zip file. See, but that's a little, I only just noticed that detail right now. It says right there that I'm in a zip file. Okay, but the stuff that's in the zip file, like if I double click on this, it is a picture. Okay, just like if I double click here, I see the same picture. You can fool yourself into thinking that it's okay to work in a zip file, but every once in a while something will not work right. You know, you know, there are things that when you do them from in a zip file, they don't work right. Okay. So after you unzip something, it's a good idea to get rid of the zip file. You can always download the zip file again from the homework assignment page. Okay. Okay. Your homework assignment is to have Dr. Java on your computer at home. Open this file in Dr. Java. See, that's a Java document. That's a Java program. That's something we're going to write, and then we're going to run it. Okay, so it's something we write in the Java language. So I want to have Dr. Java started up. Okay, that Dr. Java opens up with a blank untitled program. If I wanted to, I could just start typing Java in here myself, and every once in a while I'll do that, and then you can save your work. Instead, here I'm going to open that Java file. Okay, so now I replace the untitled, unsaved document with this document. Okay, and your job is to fill this in. Okay. Okay. Now Java programs, the code that you're going to type right now is going to go in this space here between those two braces. Okay. And what you're supposed to write is print statements. You're supposed to write print statements that print out this little picture here. You're supposed to write print statements to print out this little picture here. Okay. So for example, I need that row of stars. So I'm going to go ahead and copy that row of stars over to here. Now I put an opening quote, then my row of stars, close quote, close the parentheses. Oops, close quote, close the parentheses. Then this is essentially something like a sentence in Java. We call it a statement. So it's like a sentence in the language. And sentences in English end with a period, but sentences in Java end with a semicolon. Okay, so we call them statements, and they end with a semicolon. Okay, this is actually a working program now. If I compile it, it translated the readable human program into this file here, which is the computer readable program that your computer can run. Your computer doesn't run Java programs. It runs these things called class files. So this is a Java program file, and this is a Java class file. We as humans create the Java program files with a tool like Dr. Java. Dr. Java is not the only tool that lets you create these things, but it's a good one for us to use. We create these Java files, and then when you click the compile button is where we use that thing we installed in the first step. This thing, the thing we're calling the JDK, that's actually the compiler. Okay, Dr. Java, when you click on this compile button, is using this guy here, this Amazon Corretto JDK. Okay, if you didn't have that on your computer, Dr. Java wouldn't run, and also there wouldn't be a thing the compile button is not part of the compile button's in Dr. Java, but what the compile button does is use a part of this Java JDK called the compiler. Okay, right. So that's where you're using this thing here, and it translates your human readable Java code into computer readable Java code that's called the class file. Then this other button runs it, and its output appears in this window down here. So the output appears down here. Okay, so I've got one line of output. For example, I'm supposed to get all these lines of output. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 lines of output. Okay, so you're going to need to do more of these to get all the output. So here's 7 lines of output. Okay, so there's 7 lines of output, but they're all the same. Okay, And then if I run it, see, now I've got 7 lines of output. So you have to modify this to make it the homework assignment. When you're done with the homework assignment, you have to turn it in. Okay. So if you click on this link, these are instructions on how to turn in your homework assignment. Okay. Your program, see, in this area here, you're supposed to put your name. Okay. Now, if I want, I can copy and paste that into here. Now, I can now change this to be my name. So please remember to put your name and your email address in the homework assignment. Okay, that helps me a lot when I'm grading them. Okay, because it's sometimes if people make a mistake, they could send me their homework and I don't know who it's from. Yeah. So if your name is in there, I know who it's from. And it's nice to have your email address right there, because what I do is if I see something funny in your homework assignment that I want to tell you about, I can just send you an email real quick. Having your email address there saves me several minutes of having to go look it up in a database somewhere. I mean, I can get all your email addresses. If I have your name, I can look up your email address in a database, but it's just real convenient for me to have your name and your email address in the programming assignment. And I quite often, if I see something that I think I should tell you about, I'll send you an email real quick. Okay. So please please make sure you put your name and your email address, and it helps if you have the course, your name, your email address, and then which assignment it is. Okay. So if you can even just copy and paste that into here, and then just change it to your name and your homework and your email address. Okay. All right. So then you've got something that I can save this, and you're ready to turn your homework assignment in. Okay. So when you're ready to turn your homework assignment in, okay, you will turn this thing back into a zip file. Remember, it started out as a zip file and we unzipped it and we did our work in here. Now we're going to turn it back into a zip file. Okay. To turn it back into a zip file, you right click on the folder and go down here to say send to compressed file. Okay. Now it's back to being a zip file. That's another reason why it's good to delete the zip file. Because if the original zip file was there and you try to convert this thing to a zip file, again, things get kind of messed up. Okay, so it's like if I do this again, well, it created another zip file with a different name. Okay, so if I keep converting it to a zip file, depending on what program you use for converting things to zip files, like this one, this is built into Windows. If it just keeps generating zip files with different names. So it created this. Now they're all the same. It just gave them different names. Okay. Now, after you've converted this guy to a zip file, where was it? Send to. You have to remember where to look for it. It's in the send to compressed zipped folder. After you convert to a zip file, change the name to be CS123 homework 1, then your last name. Again, do this way because it makes my job a lot easier. If I get 40 people sending me a file called homework1.zip, I have to rename them all myself because I can't have two. Notice that you couldn't have two zip files with the same name on the computer. Remember how this guy, every time I created another zip file, it gave it a different name. If everybody sends me a homework1.zip, I have to then give them names. Okay, so in the instructions here, I point out that what I want you to do is name your zip file, see, this way. CS123 homework, then the number of the homework assignment, then your last name, .zip. So please do that. It really helps me get work done better. And it's also the little things of getting you used to naming files are real important skills with a computer. So turning a folder into a zip file, giving the zip file a name, those are all important things. If you haven't played around with the computer that much, these are good skills to build on. Okay, so you will take your homework after you've unzipped. You download the homework assignment from You download the zip file, unzip it, do your assignment in the zip file, rezip the zip file, and then you're ready to send it to me, okay? And then you rename it. After you've rezipped it up, you give it a name, and then you'll go to Brightspace to upload. Now that I can't really show you the last step. The last step of turning it in is that you go to Brightspace. Now, but I can't show you the student side of Brightspace. I'm a professor side of Brightspace, and that's one of the problems with Brightspace. It's hard for me to show you. You have to see Brightspace from your side. I can't show you your side of Brightspace. Okay. So the instructions are here, and there's a little video here that shows you the steps. This video it actually comes from the Brightspace people. I found a link to this video that's supposed to give you a video on how to upload assignments, and there's also a help page that's supposed to describe how you upload assignments. Okay, so if you haven't worked with Brightspace, if you've taken other courses, you've probably done this a bunch of times already. Okay, so you may have done this uploading to Brightspace. You may have done it many times by now, but if you haven't done it and you need a little bit of help, you can send me an email, or maybe this video will help, or maybe these instructions will help. Okay, but I can't show you that last step because I don't have a student account on Brightspace, so I can't show you what it looks like to upload a file to Brightspace. Okay. I think that's all the steps. That's real quick. I think all the steps for going back over is what we talked about on Tuesday. Anybody have any question? Anybody have anybody run into a problem or anything that didn't work right? Anything? Okay. Well, now let's turn. Okay, I'm going to delete that guy. Don't need it anymore. I'm going to delete that guy. Okay. Oh, one last thing to point out is that when you do the homework assignments, every homework assignment will have a web page that describes it. Read the description of the homework assignment very carefully. The homework assignments will start to become kind of tricky, and it's important to read the instructions correct. Read the instructions carefully, and make sure you follow the instructions of the homework assignment. Okay, so read the assignment carefully, and make sure you follow all the steps. Like this assignment, I skipped over one step because I didn't want to spend more time on this. I want you to take a screenshot. Okay, we went over that a little bit on Tuesday, but remember there's this extra step here of I want you to take a screenshot of Dr. Java working on your computer with your code in it. Okay, so that's something that that's another step that we didn't just do here, but that's a step in the homework assignment. Okay, all right, so let's go and look at the textbook. Okay. This is one of the two textbooks we're going to use. So the first reading assignment was from this textbook. Okay, here's chapter 1. Now what I want to show you is that, see this part here, this is like a version of Dr. Java built into a web page. Okay, this is something like Dr. Java. Now what you can do is there's Java code, and you can click run, and it runs over here. And if I want to, I can make changes to this code. I'll change the exclamation mark to a question mark, run it. I get a new output there. See, I can change what's over here, and I run it. And okay, so it's like Dr. Java. Now, if I wanted to, I can take this, copy it, and I can go over here and I can start up my Dr. Java. And I can go here and say paste. Now, I want to compare a little bit what's going on over here with what's going on over here. I've got the exact same code now in this thing in the web page, and then I have that code in Dr. Java. When I do this and I click, if I make changes, okay, I just click this button that says run. Notice there's no compile button. I just click this run button. Now over here, I can't just click the run button because I have to compile first. But before I can compile it, I need to save this. Right now, my code is in Dr. Java. It's not yet on my computer, saved on the computer. I have to save this. Now, notice that I get a pop-up from Dr. Java saying, oh, can I put it on your desktop and call it hello? And in the world of Java, see this thing that says public class hello? A Java program called hello must be stored in a file called hello. So Dr. Java knows that this code should be stored in something called hello. So I'm going to say, yes, save it for me. There it is. See, now it's on my hard drive. Now I can compile it. Then I get this other file. Then I can run it. And I get the same output that I got. Well, now I can make a change. Okay. So change this to 5. Now, here's something that we're going to eventually you'll learn a lot more about how computers work, but right now what you have to remember is I changed this in Dr. Java. I haven't yet changed it over here yet. And there's actually, Dr. Java is warning me about that. See that little star there? That star means that what you see in the window of Dr. Java is not what's stored in the file on your computer. Now, Word and PowerPoint and all these programs work this way. When you make changes to a document, you got to remember to save your changes. Otherwise, the changes can disappear on you. Okay, so they haven't been copied from the window of this program to the file on your computer. So over here, I would say save it, compile it, then run it, and I get the same output I got over here. Okay, so I'm getting the same thing. So, okay, so that code ran and gave me that output. The same code over here ran and gave me the output. Now, actually, what's interesting about this web version is that this, remember Dr. Java, there's the code in the Java window, then there's the code that you save on your hard drive. Then you have to save it on your hard drive. You have to compile it to a class file, and then you actually run the class file. That's all happening here in this web version too, but it's not happening on your computer. It's happening on their computer. It's happening, that's why it kind of takes a little while. This stuff is being sent from your computer to their computer. It's being run on their computer. On their computer would be the file hello.java and the file hello.class. Then they run the program on their computer and send you the result over to this web page. Okay, so all the same things are happening here, but they're actually happening on their computer on the other end of your internet connection to this website. Okay, so one thing that's kind of odd is that sometimes every once in a while, if you click this run button, nothing might happen because their computers might be too busy. Every once in a while, it happens that there's a computer at the other end of this website, and you're actually compiling and running your program on their computer. So the hello.java files on their computer, the hello.class files on their computer. Okay, and you don't see that. So when you leave this page, they delete your files. And if I wrote suppose I wrote a program here that I thought was brilliant. If I don't actually then copy it and save it to my computer, when I leave this website, my code is going to be gone. Yeah. When I go back to their website, if I go back to their website and I go back to that page, my code will not be there. I'll be back to the original version of this web page. Where was it? There. Okay. See, actually, their website's kind of smart. It is. See, my code actually is there. I don't remember. See, it will eventually disappear. There. See, I reloaded the page. See, now it's gone. My code is gone now when I reloaded the page. Okay. So you can't trust you can't trust their code. It's not, the stuff is being done on their computer, not your computer. So you That's the difference between Dr. Java and using something like this on their website. Dr. Java is doing all its work on on your own computer. So here you're always saving things on your computer. Okay? So if you quit Dr. Java, if I want to go back to that program, I just start Dr. Java up again, and I just copy that file back into Dr. Java. So when you're working on a homework assignment, it's just like working on Word documents. You save your work and then you reopen it. Okay, and as long as you remember be careful to remember where your files are. Every semester I have students who said, I did the homework assignment, but I can't remember where on my computer it is. Okay, you have to be a little bit careful to keep track of where your files are. Okay, what folder did you put your files in? Because I always have a case in this every year. Many students will tell me, I can't find I did it last night and I didn't keep track of where the folder is. Your computer is big. Your computer's got thousands of folders on it, and you could actually have things buried in a folder somewhere if you're not really paying attention. So be careful. Like a lot of times it's maybe good to just work on your desktop. Or another good place to work is to just go to your C drive and create a folder, create the homework 1 folder on your C drive, okay? Or what's even better is to create a CS123 homework folder, and then inside there put a homework 1 folder. Put a homework 1 folder here, then later on, or unzip the homework assignment into here. Then later on, you'll unzip the homework 2 assignment into here, and you can keep your homework assignments in a safe place. Okay, and everybody should develop their own habit of how to keep track of their files. Everybody should have their own way of having a good habit of keeping track of their files. A lot of people keep their files in their document folder. Windows gives you something called a document folder. Windows also gives you something called a download folder. And some people just keep all their work in their download folder. Some people keep all their work in their document folder. I usually create a folder on my C drive to hold things, like a CS123 homework folder. Then you can have homework 1, homework 2, homework 3. But do keep track of where your homework files are, because it's not that uncommon for someone to lose track of where they are and just lose their homework assignment the way you would lose them from this website. Okay. Now, this website has several places where they have boxes like this where you can try out what they're talking about. Okay, so here they point out that you can do 2 print statements, one after the other. Okay, and you can run that. Okay, so you can see that there's 2 print statements. And if you want, you can add your own print statements. You can say copy, and you can copy and paste in here, and you could make changes. Okay, you can make your own changes, get the code to indent properly, and you can run it and see your changes. Okay. The book is meant to let you think about what you're reading and try that out in the web page. See, this is where it's an interactive book as opposed to a print book. There's no way a print book can have a Java program built into it. So as they're explaining things, they can let you do things in these windows where you could type. They usually will have some code that demonstrates an idea, okay, and then they let you can play around with it. Like here's a good example of an idea that they can present. We're using something called the print line method here, the print line function. There's also, we read that it's spelled PRINTLN, and people read it as print line. There's also a print statement. Well, what does it do? So let's run this. Notice that this printed goodbye, and then this printed cruel world. But what's interesting using print and print line? Okay, if you run this, you see that goodbye and cruel world are on the same line. On your hand, if you change this one to an ln, see now goodbye and cruel world are on separate lines. The ln means that after you print what's inside the quotes, the ln means terminate the line and go to the beginning of the next line. So this little ln stands for line. It means end the current line and go back, end the current line, go to the next line and go to the beginning. And then the next print line will start there. Okay. Now, if I get rid of both of these ln's, notice how the blinking cursor stopped at the end. It's still on the first line. Okay. See, when I run this program, see there's that little blinking cursor. It's still at the end of the first line. Now, if I put back the ln here and I run it, see how the blinking cursor is on the second line. Okay. So there's a difference now. Even though notice that even though the output looks the same, this code and that code aren't the same. Whoops. This code and this code aren't the same. They produce the output that looks the same, but this code leaves the computer at the end of the first line. This leaves the program at the end of at the beginning of the second line. So this leaves the computer at the end of the first line. This leaves it at the beginning of the second line. Okay, so now notice that they explain that up here, but then they give you an example where you could see it happen. And what they want you to do is to start making changes in this code. Get in the habit that when you read this stuff that you go and say, what if I change this? What if I change that? Okay, go ahead and try making changes. So for example, let's play around with this a little bit. Here's an example of something you could do. What happens if you put nothing in here? What does that do? Okay. What did it do? Now, what we're going to do is we're going to so now I've got 3 lines of code here, and the 3 lines of code did something, and I want to understand exactly what every line of code did in my program. And this is how we're going to work. We're going to say programming is all about really understanding details. Somebody try stepping through that code and saying what it did. What did line 4 do?
So it read the first line of goodbye, and then since the second system out was an ln, it started on the second line, and since there was no text, it just printed nothing. So then when it goes on to the third line of system.out ln, it will print out cruel world.
Okay, so let's go. So, okay, what does line 4 do? So, but now slow down and just tell people, like, what did line 4 do exactly?
It printed out goodbye.
And where is on line 1? And where is the cursor? Where is the program left at that point?
The cursor is going to be left at line 1 until it reads line 5 of the code.
Okay, so line 4 printed goodbye and left the computer right there, right at the end of line 1. So line 4 printed goodbye and stopped right there. Okay, now then what's line 5 do?
Line 5 just moves the cursor down to line 2.
It moved it to line 2, but then didn't print anything. See, there was nothing to print, but it did move you from line 1 to line 2. So it ended up, this print line did the same thing as if I put the ln up here at the end of this. Now, what did line 6 do?
Line 6 printed out cruel world under line 2, but ends the cursor at line 3.
Now, what if I put an ln back here? Now predict what the program's going to do.
Would the cursor end up in line 4?
Yeah, because what will be the output? What am I going to see on the right-hand side?
You'll see goodbye and then cursor ends in the second line, and then the system out ln will go into the third line, and then we'll print out cruel world back into the second line, but end the cursor into the fourth line.
No, not quite. Real close, but not quite. So line 4 is going to print goodbye, but it's got a little ln on it. So it'll do what with it after the goodbye?
It'll end the cursor in line 2.
It'll end up on line 2. Now, the cursor's on line 2, and you do another print line with nothing in it.
So it would go to line 3.
Yes.
And
then
and then cruel world would then print in line 3 and then end in line 4.
So what you're going to see is a blank line between goodbye and cruel world. So the end is going to be, we're going to get a blank line between goodbye and cruel world. Okay? So one way to think about it is that this gives you a blank line. This guy here is the way we get blank lines. So, for example, let me do a couple of those, just for the heck of it. See, there's no harm in trying. You can't break a Java program. 3 blank lines. Now, what's this going to do? Make a guess. What's this going to do?
Is that just going to print out cruel world back onto line 3 or line 2?
Well, that's not what it's going to do. Let's think about it. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, yes, line 2. You're right. Because what's going to happen? This is going to print goodbye.
And then cursor will end up in line 2.
And it'll end up in line 2. This will not move the cursor because it doesn't print anything and there's no ln. This does not move the printing. This does not move the printing. These end up doing nothing. They end up doing nothing, and then you get the cruel world on you're still at the beginning of the line 2. So this printed goodbye on line 1, but move the cursor to the beginning of line 2. This didn't do anything. This didn't do anything. This didn't do anything. You're still at the beginning of line 2, and it prints cruel world. What did I do wrong? Oh, here I got an error message. Sometimes let's see. I think they goofed up. Let me try running it again. No? Did I misspell something in one of these?
No, they're all spelled right.
Huh. Let me remove these. Okay, now let me put them back. One of them's not liked. Okay, let's do a process of elimination. Let's remove them one at a time. Something's wrong with one of them, so I'm going to remove that one. Okay. Put it back. Try removing the second one. Put it back. Try removing the third one. Try moving 2 of them. I have no idea what's going wrong here.
It's something wrong with all of them because every time you take one off, the error gets lower and lower.
Oh, I remember now what the problem is. I'm forgetting a little I'm forgetting a funny little detail about Java. Okay. I remember now. Now I remember. Programming languages are all about really weird little details. Okay. That prints a blank line. Okay. What I forgot was Java doesn't let you have an empty print. You can have an empty print line, but you're not allowed to have an empty print. I just remembered that. You're not allowed, the logic would be an empty print just doesn't print out anything, but Java doesn't let you have an empty print. There is no empty print in Java. There is an empty print line, but not an empty print. So I forgot that little detail, okay? See, so empty print line prints a blank line. You would think the logic would be then an empty print prints nothing, but they don't even let you do that. They don't let you have an empty print. Okay, let's go over and check that in Dr. Java. So let's try. We should get the same kind of problem over here in Dr. Java. So I'll go over here and I'll try have an empty. Well, I can have an empty print line. That'll be okay. But then let's see that there's going to be a problem when I try to have an empty print. So let's see what happens with Dr. Java. Click compile. Okay. Now, see, Dr. Java said line 7 isn't allowed. Notice you get an incredibly long error message down here. It's basically telling you that line 7, the empty print line is allowed. The empty print is not allowed. Okay, so it's just, I forgot that that's a funny little quirk of Java. Empty print line is a way to get blank lines. Empty print is just not allowed. Okay. Now notice that you learn things from Java by playing. Playing and getting mistakes and then trying to figure out what's going on is learning to program is all about making mistakes. Yeah, it's just the way we humans learn how to program is we learn how to program by making lots of mistakes and figuring out what did I do wrong? How do I fix that? And you learn by reading, by asking questions, by talking to people. And it's a process of making mistakes and figuring out what was the problem with the mistake. Because little things that make sense, little things like, why is empty print line okay, but empty print not okay? There's no logic to that. Somebody in the Java world, well, the empty print line makes sense. Okay, that gives you blank lines. But then somebody said, but empty print should not be allowed. Why? Who knows why? You know, you could just say an empty print doesn't do anything. But they said, no, you shouldn't even be allowed to type, you know, an empty print is an error. So empty print line is a blank line. Empty print is an error. Okay, there's no real logic that would tell you that, but that's like, it's not that way in other programming languages. In some programming languages, empty print line is a blank line, and empty print doesn't do anything. It just doesn't print anything. So it's allowed, and it just doesn't do anything. Okay, notice how we learn by playing around. We learn by playing, okay? So important thing is the difference between print line and print. You can build up long, complicated lines. Okay, see? You can, yeah. And notice how like to everyone got blurred together. So I maybe want to put a space there to get a space after. Oh, and I still got everyone. I need another space like here. Yeah. But you can use combinations of prints and print lines to get output. Okay, so that's useful. Sometimes it's very useful to use a combination of prints, usually with a print line at the end, okay, to type a line. Okay. All right, now here's another thing they show you. Something called escape sequences. Okay. Look at this print here. Notice that they're using print, but let's run this. Oh, look, we got 2 lines of output. And the cursor, notice that the cursor is on the 3rd line. See how it blinks on the 3rd line? So, you know, even though we're using print, we actually got 1, 2 lines of output, and we're at the beginning of the 3rd line. What caused the transition from this line after the exclamation mark to that line? It was this funny little character in here. See, if you look in here, there's a funny little character, /n. /n, you read that as a new line. N stand, it's very much like the ln on the print lines. See, the ln, you read that as a new line. In fact, yeah, ln can be thought of as an abbreviation of line to line, or you can read it backwards and think it means a new line. Okay, the /n character means the same thing. When you put a /n in the middle of a string, this thing here is called, we call this a string. See the part that's in red? between two double quotes, the stuff that's between two double quotes is called a string. When you put a /n in the string, it has the effect of like you used a print line. There's a break there. You switch from that line to the next line. Then they put one of these at the end of this. That moved you from the end of that question mark to the beginning of that blank line down there. So this ln moved us from line 1 to line 2 after the exclamation mark. This ln moved us from line 2 to line 3 after the question mark. Okay. If I get rid of that ln, the cursor is going to stay at the end of line 2. See, it's at the end of line 2. Now, on your hand, if I put, now, here's something. ln here means exactly the same thing as /n there. Okay, that's a little trick of Java. A print with a /n at the end of the string is exactly the same thing as print line. Let me show you another way to get a blank line. Print ln. That prints a blank line. That's the same thing as that. Okay. So now this is two ways to get a blank line. Print /n or print line with nothing in it. Whoops, now what did I do wrong? Oh, does anybody see where my mistake is? You're going to do this yourself. You're going to type dumb little things. I typed something real dumb. See, look on my screen. Look at what I typed. Anybody see where my mistake is?
Is it your line 7?
Line 7.
Line 7. What did I do wrong?
Your
The
quotation
second
marks.
yeah.
Say again. What?
The second parentheses and the quotation mark.
Yeah, I got something all messed up. I should add a opening quote there. Then I've got an extra thing at the end there. Okay, so now I got that cleaned up. See, notice that the error message told me where the mistake was, line 7. Notice that Dr. Java is a little bit better about that. Dr. Java highlights the line that's got the mistake in it. That really helps. That's a nice feature of Dr. Java. When there's a mistake, it gets highlighted. This one you have to read here and say, oh, line 7. Okay, so run that. Okay. Two different ways of printing a blank line. Here's a little puzzle. What does print line /n do? What is line 7 in my code doing now?
Is it skipping 2 lines?
2 lines, yeah. It's a way to get 2 blank lines. Okay. I've got blank line 1, blank line 2, blank line 3 and 4. Blank line 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay. And I can get as many blank lines as I want here. There's a bunch of blank lines. Okay. All right. So we can, notice we can play around. Now, /n is called an escape sequence. There's a couple other escape sequences down here. Let me just show you real quick what they do. So I'm going to replace the /n here with a /t. Okay, /t puts this, see this little space here? That's called a tab. It's a blank, on different, let's put this code in Dr. Java. We'll actually see something a little bit different. Oh. I got, well, about the same. A tab, the /t character means move to the right a certain number of spaces. The unfortunate thing is the number of spaces you move to the right by varies from one computer to another. Here it looks like it went about 3 or 4 spaces. No, yeah, see, it went from the exclamation mark to the capital H. There's a certain amount of space there, and it's more than one space. It looks to me like 3 or 4. And over here, it looks like about only 2 spaces. Okay. Here's how we can count the spaces. Okay. The 6 is right under the exclamation mark. The 9 is right under the H. So the spaces are 2 spaces. Okay. The 7 and 8. Over here, see, 3 spaces. Okay. See here, the exclamation mark is over the 6, the H is over the W, and there's 3 spaces here, the 7, 8, 9. Here there was 2 spaces. Okay. The tab key is kind of a funny key. The tab escape sequence means horizontal spaces. Put some number of horizontal spaces, go to the right a certain number of spaces. But the number of spaces varies from place to place. Every program treats /t differently. Like this website's treating it as 2 spaces. Over here, Dr. Java is treating it as 3 spaces. Okay, so that's what people use it for a lot. Here's what people use it for. It's real common to use tab the following way, to put it at the beginning of a line, to just get an indentation. Oh, and now I got way more than 2 spaces. Now I got a whole lot of spaces. Let's see how many I got. Let's try that trick again. Let's see how many spaces we got there. I think it's going to be 8. See? 8 spaces, which is actually very common. It's very common for /t to mean 8 spaces. Okay, but notice that it meant 8 spaces when it was at the beginning of the line, and it meant something else when it was in the middle of a line. Okay, tabs can be kind of confusing. Okay, but it's part of every programming language. The /t escape sequence is in every programming language. It's usually used at the beginning of lines to get indentation. And in fact, when you're programming in Dr. Java, if I go back to the beginning of a line and I want to indent, right now I'm going to tap the T key. If you look on your keyboard, on your left, you have a character called TAB, tab. The tab key on your keyboard is exactly this /t in a print line. And if I go over here and I hit tab, see, I hit the key one time and it went from here all the way to here. And if I hit backspace, see, I have to back. But then if I hit the tab key once, it jumps over to there. So you use the tab key to get your indentation. You can just hit tab key one time and you can be indented to the right place. So I hit tab one time and I'm indented to the right place. Okay, so that's one of the escape characters, the /t. Okay, now here's another funny thing that we're going to need a lot. No, at least sometimes. What if I want my output? Okay, let me clean this up. Let me delete all these. Right now, this thing prints out the little message. Hello, how are you doing? What if I want to put quotes around you? That's not going to work. So anybody, what's wrong with, I want the output to be, hello, how are, quote, you, unquote, doing? So I put quotes around you. What's wrong with putting quotes around you? Think a little bit. Like, look how it got color coded.
Because the compiler reads it as a variable.
No, well, kind of, but what's wrong? Like, what did this quote here do?
It ended the statement that's in the string. So
Yes.
it ends it at hello, how are, and then it continues at doing because it doesn't read you.
Right. So what it did was this first quote here ended my string. Then I get YOU, which is outside of the string. Then this quote does what?
It continues the string.
Well, no, it doesn't continue the string. It does what?
Does it start a new one?
Yes, it starts a new one. That's a much better way to think about it. This quote now begins a new string. So now there's two strings with YOU between them. And the compiler is going to complain about that. It's going to not like it. So how do I do this? How do I get quote in the middle of my string? And that's, I need this escape sequence. I need to do what we call you escape the quote. Now, see the difference? See how the color coding worked? When I put that slash there, that quote became part of the red string. But this quote is doing what now? What's that quote now do? Look at the color coding.
It's ending the string.
Yeah, it's ending the string, but I want it to be in the middle of the string. So I quote it also. Oh, now look, see, my string now goes from here all the way to here. And if I run this, see, there's the quotes in my output. Notice the slashes are not in the output. The quotes are in the output. This is called escape sequence. I need to somehow escape that quote from what it usually means. That quote usually means either start or end a string. Yeah, this quote means start a string. This quote here means end a string. Without that slash, this quote would end the string. But the slash escapes it to being not a start or end of a string. It escapes it to be part of the string. Okay. Right. Now, if I want, I can put another I can put another slash quote in there, and I can put another slash quote in there, and I can have double quotes around you. Okay. And these quotes are part of the string. They don't need to be balanced. So for example, I could get rid of that one and have two. I could have, notice that the quotes around strings have to be balanced, but these quotes that are inside the string, they don't need to be balanced in any way. Like if I delete that quote, Java's going to complain. I have the quote that begins the string and I have no quote to end the string, and Java's going to say there's something wrong with what you did here. Okay. If you have a quote that begins a string, there has to be a quote that ends it. And it can't be these because these are escaped. So there should be a quote at the end of the string. I'm sorry, at the end of the string to balance the string. You have to have, for every beginning quote, there has to be an ending quote. Okay, all right. Oh, and here's another funny thing. Go back to this. What if I want to make this look like a line of poetry, and I want to put slashes in the middle of the line, like hello slash, as if that was a poetry thing. So what if I want to put hello and I want to put a slash right there? Okay, so I put a slash there. Okay, notice it looks like it's inside the string. Java complained. Okay, it looked like the slash is part of the string, so it looks like I'm going to have hello slash how are you. But what is Java says a slash is the beginning of an escape sequence, and you didn't put the thing you're escaping after the slash. So it's complaining. See, the little arrow points at the slash. Okay, illegal escape character. See, it says I'm doing I'm using the slash without something right after it. Well, the thing right after it's a space, which doesn't work. It wants either an N, a T, a quote, or a slash slash. So what I wanted was a slash in my output, so I have to escape the slash to get a slash in my output. Now watch when I run this. See, now I got the single slash in my output when I put two slashes over here. Okay. Programming is all about weird little details like this. When you write programs, you need to get output like, you need a slash in output. Like suppose I wanted to print out something that looked like a little bit of math. So suppose I wanted to print out, how are 1/2 of you doing? Okay, that's not going to print. Well, actually, that's the other slash. Okay, that print. See, that's the other slash. That one printed. Okay, so the slash that doesn't print, the one that's escape sequence, is this one. See, that one, wow, that actually printed, but it printed something bizarre. I've never seen. I wonder if Dr. Java will do that. See, there's a weird amount of details to programming. That's not even a valid escape sequence that I know of, but it printed something funny looking over here. Let me put that one in Dr. Java and see if Dr. Java, what it does with it. Same funny character. I don't even know what that character is. I've never heard of a escape sequence /2. Let's see what a /3 does. Is there such a thing as /3? Looks like the same funny character. I don't even know what that is. Later I'll have to go look that up. I've never, it's not in this table. If you put, let's see, let me try something else. /x. See, I got an error message. /x is an illegal escape sequence. Okay, /x is illegal. I'm not sure what /2 is. I'll have to go look that up later on. So /x is illegal. I thought /2 was illegal also. Okay, so programming is full of little funny details, and it's there's just so many little details that weird little things can trip you up. These are the escape sequences that we will need occasionally in this class. And actually, as far as I know, Java only has I think about 6 or 8 escape sequences. There's only a couple other ones besides these 4 here. And like /x is illegal. Most if you did /b, Like, if you do /b, that should be illegal too. I'm pretty sure. No, /b gives me that funny little character. So I'm not sure which ones. I don't know. Something may have changed in the Java language. I don't know where it picked up all these extra escape sequences, and they're just printing one funny character over here. So I'm not really sure what's going on there. Okay, but these are the ones that we use occasionally. /n for new line, /t for space. If you want a quote in your string, you have to put a / quote. And if you want a slash in your screen, or actually it's a backslash, then you have to do ///. Okay. All right. So we've run out of time. Notice that the thing about reading a book like this is, I want you to read, as you're reading, play with the code. Learn by typing things, trying things, making mistakes, fixing the mistakes. Okay. Programming is about doing things. You do programming. So that's the beauty of these online textbooks. You can do the coding as you're reading the book. And chapter 2 is going to be, there's fewer of these things in chapter 2. Like if you look here at chapter 2, there aren't any of these boxes here. There's one right here. Okay. So there's fewer, like chapter 1 had more places where they put one of these boxes where you could play with code. Chapter 2 ends up having only one. All right, here's another one down here. So some chapters will have more of interaction than others. The other book, let me just show you one last thing before we quit. The other book has a lot more of this interactive stuff. So this is your reading assignment over the weekend. This book has lots of things that you do as you're reading it. See, they have code. Here's their code boxes. See, they have a run button there. And their output appears below the code. Instead of their output appearing to the right, the output appears below. So they have a similar kind of thing where you have a box where you can type code. You can change what's in the box, rerun it. Okay. So, I mean, I can make a change here. And I can rerun the program. And I'll get different output down here. Okay. So they have a similar kind of system. You can type code, run it, see the output. Okay, so we'll quit there. We've run out of time. Anybody have any last second question? Any last minute question anybody have? Okay. So please read the book interactively. Read the book, play with the Java as you're reading. Try to think of your own little experiments to try. When you're reading and you get to these boxes, try to come up with things that you might try to come up with things to experiment with. Make some kind of change here. Maybe you get error messages and then try to figure out what went wrong. But you play with the language as you're reading about it. Okay, so I'm going to quit there. Remember, Monday's a holiday, and we'll meet again on Tuesday, but there's no classes on Monday. And have a nice weekend, have a nice holiday, and see you again on Tuesday. And if you have questions, send me emails or come to office hours. Okay, bye.